evening, wherever you are in the world. It's Gail and Karen, and Janet is going to join us shortly for our Sunday chats. I am your customer experience business strategist, and Karen is going to introduce herself. And the topic today is how to handle criticism. Hi, Karen. Tell us a little
Hi,
bit.
hey, Gail. Hi, everybody. Good morning. Well, good afternoon, right?
Yeah,
My name is Karen. I am a virtual assistant. I work with mental health professionals and also providers. I help them regain control of the time and increase productivity by assisting them with admin tasks that include verification of insurance, authorization, and customer service support if needed. All right, that's me.
great. Excellent. And today we're talking about handling criticism. And just to start us off, criticism is really just like the construction of a judgment about either the positive or the negative qualities of someone or something. It can range from a random impromptu comment, or it could even be as much as a detailed response about you. So is criticism a bad thing? I don't know. Is it a good thing? That's what we're here to discuss today. And in terms of a personal experience, it could be for me like when you plan an event or a meeting or you're working on a project and somebody comes up and they say, I didn't appreciate how you did X, or you really could have done Y differently. And my thing is, if you haven't walked the path that I am on, how can you criticize me? You haven't even asked, did you have any issues? Did you need any help? And that's the problem with criticism. It's like a judgment passed on you without the person making the judgment, taking the time to find out what's really been going on in your life. So I don't know. Do you find that as well, Karen? What do you feel about criticism?
Well, for me, I mean now, because before I wasn't so good at taking criticism, right? Now
Mm-hmm.
it just takes a certain amount of practice, and it depends who's being the critic. But I think criticism is very valuable because it can help you grow. But it all depends on who is giving it to you, the intentions of the person, and also I guess it depends on the relationship that you have with the person too. I think
Mm-hmm.
those are very important factors when it comes to criticism and just taking on criticism. Um,
Yeah, that's a good
so
point. I
yeah,
agree. In the beginning, for sure, especially in my professional career, I took it very personally.
yeah,
Any kind of criticism, I took it to heart. Um, but now I think of criticism more as feedback. Could be negative
yes.
feedback or positive feedback. I just try to
Hmm.
look at it as, this person is not really judging me per se. They're just making a comment. They may not even know any better, but what can I take from the feedback and use to, if I need to do better in the future?
Yes. I think that's important. That's true. It could definitely be constructive criticism. But I think sometimes it's easy said than done, to be honest,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I think we all humans, we all have emotions, we all take things personally, right, to a certain level. But at the same time, sometimes ego could play a part in the way
Yeah.
we accept the criticism. Right,
Mm-hmm.
and also depends on who's, like I said, who's giving it to you and how it's being delivered, and the intention of the person that's delivering it to you. Is That's things that I kind of count on when I kind of assess, when I decide how I'm gonna address and what I'm gonna say, depending on what's being told to me.
Mm-hmm.
The intentions, because I'm big on intentions when it comes to giving somebody or telling somebody or explaining or talking, and also vice versa. If the intention is in a good place and it's not coming from a negative space, you're not trying to break me down or tear me down or just criticize me for no reason, then I'll take it in for a minute, right?
Mm-hmm.
I access it. I think about it, see if it makes sense to me. Then if it makes sense, then I'll take it in. But if it doesn't, then why do we take it so to the heart? You
Mm-hmm.
know, but in the mid, and I mean, it take me a while to figure kind of, I'm not an expert because I'm not there to say I don't, some things do bother me. I'm not going to say that it don't, right? And, but at the same time, I had to learn not to react to everything that's being told to me because I was always very reactive. Like
Mm-hmm.
somebody saying something to me and I already had in my mind what I was going to say before you finish. You know, before you
It's
finish,
true.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I already had a
I'm
comeback
ready.
ready.
I'm ready.
you know, and some parts of that I'm still working on it. I'm not 100% there, but I
Mhm.
had to learn how to react, how to react, how not to react, I should say.
Yeah.
Not to
Yeah.
take it personally. Because sometimes people say, and part of that is like, if this person are critiquing to you, right? Depending if it's somebody like, let's say somebody from outside, somebody you don't know, right? If they say something to you that triggers you, is there some truth to the criticism,
Mhm. Yeah, that's a
right?
good question.
Is there some truth to that? Because if you telling me, oh, you're not good at this, and I know I'm good at it, would I really care what you're saying to me, right? Or maybe it's a situation where maybe I'm not sure how good I am, or I'm not sure of my competency in this particular area. That might sting a little bit more because that's more of an internal thing to me.
Mhm.
So I think sometimes we have to consider that in a midget, just something to think about. Um, Whoever's criticizing you, is there some truth to what they're saying? Because if they trigger you so bad, maybe there's some truth to it. Because if there isn't, why do you care? Like if it doesn't, like you know how the saying goes, um, if it doesn't apply, let it fly.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's the kind of the same thing. If it
Yeah.
doesn't apply, let it fly. But if it's
Mhm.
applied and you trigger, maybe there's some correlation there. But I think that's something that you have to
You
deep
have to
sit
get
and think.
there.
You
You
have
have
to
to be
think.
mature to let it fly,
Yeah.
though.
Yeah,
A lot of
it
people
is.
aren't
That's
there yet.
true.
A lot of
No,
people
yeah, yeah,
aren't
yeah.
there.
It's not, I'm not like I just said, I'm no means perfect, but
Mhm.
I had to really learn because to some extent, to some level, uh, just reacting, you're kind of giving the other person a lot of power to how you react to certain things.
Yeah.
And I
Mhm.
was there, like you tell me something, I was ready. Like before you even finished, I had a response to you. Like I didn't
Mhm.
give a chance, whether it was good or bad. It was more where I was at in my space at that time as well. But I had to really learn and be self-aware. Where okay, if this person is telling me what is the intention, or they're saying it because it's something positive, right? And it's that if it is positive, I'm going to sit about it and it makes sense. I might apply it to myself, to my life. But if it doesn't, why should I kind of be care? Like, why should I let
Yeah.
it trigger me so much? You know?
I think one of the hardest things for me with handling criticism is when I was a manager responsible for a team,
Hmm.
and our senior, executive would make all of these harsh judgments on the team
Hmm.
in front of the team without taking the time to find out what was the background scenario
Yeah.
which led to the situation. So it's
Yeah.
very easy, as I said, to judge, and then
Yeah.
your team is working so
Hmm.
hard, and then the person in charge of us all comes and they make these very bad statements about our performance. And then
Hmm.
you see, I have being the in between person as a manager, you have to manage their expectations, but then you still have to know, try to recover with your team and get around what that person said about them, which may not have been necessarily correct.
Yeah.
And especially when you're managing millennials are very unforgiving. They want you to step up to the plate. They want you to live by what you're saying. Is not, and your actions. So your actions and what you
Hmm.
say have to match. It's not just about looking pretty. So that handling criticism was very hard for me in some instances because it wasn't only about me. It was about
Hmm.
managing my team and their reaction to the criticism,
Hmm.
because then you still have to find a way to work in the future with all of these people you know so handling criticism can be hard,
Hmm.
and then you have to also make it, when you're managing your team, as an example for how do we learn from this, what can we do differently, how can we avoid something like this happening in the future where the person just comes out and makes all of these disparaging statements about us and our performance. Is there a way we can work around it and avoid such harsh criticism in the future? And you have to be a big person not to take criticism personally. You really
Yeah.
have to. It's
You
like
I'm
you
not
have
there yet, Gail. I'm not there yet.
Well,
I'm not, I'm
we can
working
still
there.
share
I'm
some
not.
tips. So we have tips. Let's share some tips. So some tips, like, you can, as you said, you can listen honestly, because you're trying to figure out, like, where's this person really coming from? Are they taking my interest at heart, or is this person just trying to tear me down? Is the
Hmm.
feedback something that I can really use to move ahead in the future, or like you say, should I just let it fly? Avoid exploding, Karen. So you're waiting to respond. Just be calm, be zen. If you realize that this person doing the criticizing is always negative and out to harm you,
Mm-hmm.
just try to avoid them as much as
Yeah.
possible. But at the end of the day, I think the bottom line is always, what can you learn? There's always something to learn, either from the criticism itself or the feedback, or from the person. So either the person, you want to get away from that person, or you appreciate what they're trying to do. If it's the criticism itself, in terms of the feedback, what can I learn? What can I do differently? Do you have any other tips that you can share with anybody watching today?
All right. For myself, the way I really try to handle criticism is one, don't my mindset, right? I wrote some stuff
Mm-hmm.
down, so I'm gonna look at it.
Yep.
The first thing is to check my mindset, right? And that means trying to understand first of all what the person is telling me, is it helpful, right? If it's something
Mm-hmm.
that's gonna help me in any way, any kind of way, right? Is this person right? It's like, if this person trying gonna help me, what is the, and then two, the second thing to consider, who is the person telling me this, is this, what's the relationship with this person? Because family, I love family, but you can always get criticism, but good criticism for somebody depending on the circumstances. It could be somebody neutral, somebody outside, right? It could be your boss, your coworker, or a good friend, things like that. What's the relationship with the person? And then two, three would be, what's the intention of the person is telling you this? Is do you respect this person? Do you see, do you see how does this person live? Like, not where they live, but how they live their life. Are they positive individuals? You have to. That's how I kind of try to. And then the last would be, how do you react, right?
Yeah.
Like, that depends on those three things to me. Like, that's what I go by. If its intention is good and intention is to help me grow, then I'm not going to be offended by that. I welcome that, because you're trying to tell me something that's going to help me be better. So I will definitely welcome it. But if you're trying to tell me something, you're trying to be disrespectful, low key, underneath, not really being disrespectful,
Mm-hmm.
I might take it a little bit different. Because then I feel like now you're trying to be disrespectful. Because sometimes people give you criticism, but it's kind of infused, or kind of wrapped around with their own self belief,
Yeah.
right? So they're trying to throw that on you, and what happens is, depending on who you are or where you are in your life, that could kind of mess with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
A lot. It
so
can
yeah,
mess
it
with you a
can. It
lot.
really can. So this is why I say it's very good to not try, because it's not easy, but just try not to take things personally. And that's really helped me get. I'm gonna say what really helped me. Therapy was great for me with that,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because it really was. It really Therapy is great for a lot of reasons, but it really helped me with that as well. Just to understand, not to take things personal, just to assess before I speak. Try to be understanding, or try to see the person's intentions, because I give you kind of a space for to be understanding. You know, like, what is the intention? Are you trying to be, depend, like I just stated. And then another thing that helped me is also reading books that I think will be that I read books that I have read that
Mm-hmm.
I try to apply and have been helpful. So that's the things that I have done. I'm not 100% there. It's an everyday thing, but
It
I'm better.
is.
But
It is.
it's better than I was a year ago. Trust me, because a year
If I
ago,
had to, what tips would you give somebody on how to criticize? So we are sharing how
right, that's
we
a good one.
feel as the people being criticized. But if you had to criticize somebody, what would you do differently based on how you feel when you are criticized? What tips? So
Well,
I'm asking, if I had to criticize you,
right.
what would you tell me to do?
Well, if I like I said, I know you, Gail, so I know your intentions are gonna be good. So I welcome them all
Okay,
in.
okay,
So if it
okay.
comes for you, I take them all in because I know it's coming from a good place. So I
Yeah,
don't get offended by that.
you're my
But
person.
so with that, it's so good. But of course, like I said, it depends on the person. First of all, everybody don't need your criticism. Some people just want to. some people,
Okay,
some people want to. Sometimes people come to you for you to listen to them. That's not necessarily
okay.
because they want your feedback.
So is that the first question I'm asking myself before
I
I
would
criticize?
ask,
Am I saying, does this person really need my criticism?
right, like,
Is that a good question then? I
Yeah,
guess so.
I think that,
Yeah.
yeah, like sometimes people like to impose their opinions without asking. Like, hey, somebody's telling you something. Hey, I will ask, hey, do you want feedback, or you just want me to listen? And if they just
Mhm.
want you to listen, just listen. Because sometimes people just want to air things out, letting things out their chest because that's what they need at the moment. It does not mean they want you to be up there telling all their opinions. People don't
Yeah.
need. Sometimes
Yeah.
people don't want that. So I think
Yeah.
that's the main thing for me is learning. First, do you want my criticism, or my feedback on something? And if you
Mhm.
don't, I won't say anything. I just listen. Just be an
Yeah, but
ear.
I agree to a
And if
certain
you
extent.
do, and if you do
Yeah.
need it, right?
Mhm.
Then I would say, depending on our relationship, I would tell you, and I'll be respectful, of course, but I'll be straightforward. And also try to, depending on what the problem is, let's find a solution to the problem together.
Exactly. Mhm.
Because why
Let's
you
find a
telling me?
solution.
Yeah, because why you telling me something you ain't gonna help me solve it? You just talking then.
Mhm.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, try to find a solution to the person's problem. Hey, listen, you going through this? Let's brainstorm ideas. Let's figure out how we could, let's figure out, because ultimately that person will be thankful, because sometimes people are stuck. People go into something internally by themselves, right? And then might not have somebody to help them put things in perspective.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
try to add something to that person. Try to bring something to the person. Will mean try to solve the problem. Try to see, hey, you going through this. Let's figure it out. What's going on? Let's see. Let's
Yeah,
Google
what's going
something.
on? I think that's a very important question first. Like, after you ask yourself, does this person really need my criticism? The next
Mm-hmm.
question would be, if I am going to give criticism, I think the first thing I need to find out is what's going on. So, like,
Right.
it's kind of different when you're working with a team, because then your question is, or
Right.
your opening thing is, you did really well on X, but I found
Right.
you let Y slide. Can you share and tell me what really happened so we can work
Right.
together on it?
Correct.
So it's about having a conversation
Come.
rather than making the person feel as though
So,
they're being judged.
right, Gail.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it's about. It's about
Mhm.
having. I agree with you 100%. It's about having a conversation and trying to come with like, hey, what's like you just mentioned. Try to get an understanding of what happened. You know,
Yeah.
and that what transpired in that situation, what led to that. Like you just,
Mhm.
and then try to find a solution to the problem. That might be, maybe it could be so many things. They say is always
Yeah.
late, right? They say you have a staff that's always late, right? And you have spoken to them. And you have spoken to them. The next thing would be, hey, maybe you want a different shift. Maybe the shift
Mhm.
is not working for
Mhm.
you. Like I said,
Mhm.
try to find solutions to the problem. I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, and try to be
Um,
approachable. Sometimes people feel they
hmm
can't come to you with whatever's
right,
going on because you're not approachable. Just let them know, listen, whatever you're going through, I don't want to be in your business per se, but because
right,
we're working together, you need to
right,
let me know so I can back you up, or so,
right,
you can find somebody to help you. Let's find a solution together.
right.
And if somebody's here saying in the comments, you have to actively listen. So
Yes.
not okay, Karen. So you've gone past ready to answer before the person has finished speaking. I'm very proud of you and your progression. But one of the things you really need to do on both sides, the person
Yeah.
criticizing and the person being criticized, you really need to step back and listen. Okay, what is this person really saying?
hmm
How am I gonna respond after?
hmm
So you're doing really good, Karen. I'm so proud of
Thank
you.
you.
No, progressing in life is very hard, and sometimes
It
learning,
is.
the longer we take to learn the lesson, the harder it is for us to move on to the next level. I have learned that the
No.
hard way.
No, I mean, you're right. Like, it's really, it's a step. And just definitely be self-aware when things are starting
Mhm.
to happen, right? When those
Yeah.
triggers or those situations starting to come about, it's to really stop for a minute and just be like, hey, like, I see myself reverting back to, but if you're
Mhm.
trying to, it's not easy to change. I mean, I'm the
No, it's
first one
not.
to say it. It's not an easy thing, and it's challenging, and it's a lot of different emotional roller coasters that go through the process of it. But not to get off topic, but I think that's just part. In criticism, we all gonna
Yeah.
get criticized.
Mhm.
Everybody get criticized to one way or one time or another in their life by somebody,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I just think it's important to know how to handle, how to deal, how not to take things so personal. when somebody criticize you, because the criticize you is criticism. It's just somebody giving you feedback. It doesn't mean that you necessarily have to apply it to your life.
Hmm.
It's not like, oh, you have to do it. No, it's just people giving their opinion based on their perspective, based on their life experience, based on what they've been through. You know,
Yeah.
and this is why it's important to know who's giving it to you. Um, because maybe that person, maybe you don't need it. Maybe that whoever's delivering
Hmm.
it to you is not necessarily important to you. But
Yeah.
I just think that's important, just
Yeah.
to sit back and think. Don't take it so personal, you know. Just take it as, if it's applied to you, then apply it to you, and if it don't, then let it go.
Yeah. This is like how to handle criticism 101.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
what I think really
yeah.
helps, like this conversation is really good for people now starting out on their career path, for example, where
Yeah,
part of their onboarding on or orientation, you say, okay, so you will be criticized. It's a fact of life. It
right.
is how you handle the criticism that will take you into the future, positively or negatively. Here are some tips. Because you assume people know, but everybody doesn't know how to handle criticism. And as I said, it's how you view criticism. It's not really, just look at it as
Yeah,
feedback,
yeah,
and
yeah.
let's go on from there.
Yeah, I agree with you. Just look at it as feedback. What about,
Mhm.
it could, if you, let's say it's not a family member giving you feedback, right?
Mhm.
Let's say it's a customer, or let's attach this to business, right?
Yeah.
Let's attach it to a business sense, right? Let's say it's a boss or a customer, or whoever, somebody who's within your business. It could be a boss or whoever, right? So how does that, whoever, like I said, whoever's giving you feedback, if it's positive, if it makes sense, you
Mhm.
take, of course, it makes sense to take something that makes sense. And sometimes, when a criticism is given it to you, maybe at that time you might not necessarily agree. You know, you might have to. Sometimes you have to sit around and think about it for a little bit. But I just feel like when no situation happens for me, when somebody tells me something that maybe at the time, like, I don't know if that really applies to me, right? I necessarily, now I won't say anything. I just say thank you, because
Mhm.
then I want to go back to think about it. Let me see. Let me analyze what this person said, and then apply it if it makes sense.
Yeah, I think one of the
Especially,
hardest. Sorry, you go ahead. Sorry, I should
no,
not have
no,
interrupted. I was gonna say I think one of the hardest things for businesses is getting feedback from their customers because they
yeah,
see it as criticism.
right,
And sometimes customers are really just trying to help you run your business more
mm-hmm,
efficiently
right,
and to give them a better experience. So sometimes you're doing stuff to your customer that you may not even be aware of.
right,
But a lot of business owners take that feedback so personally that they can't move past it. So
mm-hmm,
when the customer comes to your restaurant, for example, and they have to wait an hour after they have a reservation and your team doesn't
mm-hmm,
say, well, we had a problem in the kitchen or we were short staffed, that's not, it's feedback that
mm-hmm,
you then take and say, okay, you know what, on Wednesday this was the problem in the restaurant, this is what we have to do. Is not negative. It only becomes really bad when you don't address it and that
right,
customer shares the bad experience with 10 people who in turn share it with 10 more people. So it's
right,
being actively responsible to working on feedback rather than seeing it as criticism. And I think if more businesses would get their customers more involved in giving feedback on how they're operating, whether good, bad, or indifferent,
mm-hmm,
we'd be so much further along, I think.
yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I think when it comes to business, like you just mentioned, take the feedback, analyze it. Maybe so,
Hmm.
because it could be maybe that one Wednesday wasn't a good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
Hmm.
you have to kind of assess and see what's really going on. Maybe something that happened that one time. Maybe something that happens every Wednesday. So something you have
Correct.
to, I mean, it happens in restaurants. I've been to restaurants where you take in restaurant that I love that I've been to so many times, right? And maybe that
Hmm.
one day I go in, the first 5 times I was able to get in there, have a seat quick. And then maybe the sixth time I go or the seventh time I go, they busy and I have to wait for that. So I think it depends on the circumstances. It's good to analyze if there's something that happened multiple of time or during that day, or this is just a one-time incident.
Hmm.
Right? So I would say
Hmm.
assessed and
Yeah.
see where where might be the little holes where you can make assessment, where you can make changes, and there's something that needs to be addressed and you change it,
Hmm.
because ultimately it's not about. I feel like we all in business obviously to make money. Let's not act like we don't know that, right? But ultimately, money's not the goal, right? Money's like that. It's not the number one reason. right? It might be to obviously make people's lives better, right? Depending on your expertise, depending on what product or service you have. So the goal is to help somebody and give somebody a great experience.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, look at it, assess it. If it's something you can
Yeah.
fix it. Because ultimately, it's not about us. It's about providing the best customer
Mm-hmm.
service experience to people that we serve.
Yeah, and we should give them the opportunity to provide that feedback.
Yes, I
Sometimes
agree.
there's no website you can go on. There's not even a physical card you can fill out and put in the box. There's sometimes no avenue for you to provide this feedback, which is also interesting because it's so valuable. You can learn so much, and a lot of businesses they don't even provide that option. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting topic today.
It is. It is. It was very interesting. It was something that I really had to last like this I woke up early today like I always do. And I had to think back of my own self, like, okay, let me see. Let me think about criticism. How really do I deal with this?
Hmm.
Because, it's something that I really had to work through. I'm still working
Yeah.
on it.
I
I'm
was gonna
I'm
say I'm still a work in
I'm
progress.
still
Some
working on
things,
it.
depending on who
I'm
you are,
still
can take it very personally. I'm sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, and I will not speak to you for a long time. I say that on camera, but then I forgive you and I may love you again. It depends. It depends on who it is. But sometimes
Okay.
criticisms from your family can be the hardest because there's so much emotion involved. So
Yes.
like if it's you and your daughter and your son, or your granny, for example, sometimes that
Mhm.
criticism can really hurt. Or if you have to give it makes it harder. You put it
Yeah.
off because like how do you tell this person what you have to tell this person? It can't That's so much harder, I think. Family.
Yeah, it can be that. It definitely can be, right? Because I think
Yeah.
it's the like you just said, the emotional attachment.
Hmm.
You know them, you love them, but why do we get so fringe when it's family?
Because we don't want
Opposed
to hurt
to
their feelings. I don't want my
I
feelings to be hurt, and I
I
don't want
mean
to hurt your
that's
feelings.
true. That's
And the longer we
true.
leave it, the more the possibility exists that feelings are going to be more hurt. But I guess
But
it's just life.
I mean that's true. But at the end of the day, regardless of what, the feelings might be hurt anyway, right?
Yeah.
Like
But I don't
even
want to be the one. I don't want to be the one hurting your feelings. Let somebody
right.
else hurt your feelings. I don't want to be it. I don't want
Right?
to be it.
Because it's like even if you do it today or you do it a week from now or even a
It
month
is
from
true.
now, their feelings are gonna if that
I
person
am agree with you, Karen. So what I'm gonna do next time when I have that hard conversation with my son, I'm gonna say, okay, Karen, can you just call my son and tell him X, Y, Z, and you handle that conversation, and then I am not the bad person. You can be the bad person. Can that work for you?
he might not, I don't know, he might take it good or he might take it bad. No, but I
Yeah,
don't
but
know.
it
Yeah,
doesn't
he
bother
might
because
be
it's
like
not me.
he
It's
might
not
be like
me.
he might be like, who is this
He
lady coming
cannot.
over here and telling me this?
Correct. Yeah, but it is true. It is
Yeah,
true. I
it
think the
is.
family is harder
It
sometimes.
is. I agree. It's
You know.
challenging. We love them. We go through our ups and downs with family. You know how that
Yeah.
goes. You
Yeah.
know.
Well, great. I don't see any questions on the
Yeah.
chat. Thank everybody for coming. Do you want to share what our topic is for next week, which is very exciting? And we have a guest joining us.
Yes, next week topic is gonna be women supporting women. Do
Hmm.
we really support each
What does
other?
that really
What does
look
that
like?
really yes, what does that really look like?
Hmm.
It would be, so tune in next week and thank you for everybody
Yeah.
that tuned in. And
We're
we do
going to
have a
have a
guest.
guest, Karen. Don't forget,
Yes,
we're
we're gonna
having
have a
Emily Williams
guest.
joining us next week
Yes,
to talk
so
about women,
yes.
supporting women. Yeah.
So thank you for everybody that shows up, everybody that comments on our lives. Thank you so much
Hmm.
because we appreciate those very much.
Yeah.
So thank you and thank you for showing up today as well.
Yeah. Enjoy
And
your Sunday. It's
yes,
a
enjoy.
pleasure.
Take care,
And we'll
guys.
see you next week. Bye,
Bye bye bye
everybody.
bye.
See you.